So I'm here to touch on the two ways that we're going to use mushrooms. The first way is microdosing. The second way is macrodosing, small dose or a big dose. Let's focus on microdosing first. Microdosing is using a tiny bit of the medicine for a prolonged period of time to create an uptrend in how we wake up and start our day, right? So how you wake up and start your day dictates the mood of the day. How you wake up and start your days dictates the mood of the week. How you wake up and start your weeks, guess what? Dictates the mood of the month, and so on. And so with microdosing, we want to create an uptrend in how we wake up and start our day, right? Mushrooms rewrite neurological pathways rapidly, right? But they only rewrite the pathways based upon how we feel. So we have to develop a discipline or a practice with this mushroom. We have to practice feelings. We have to create the feelings or experience the feelings that we want the mushrooms to rewrite. Mushrooms is only 20% of the work. 80% of the work is creating the feelings you want the mushrooms to etch into the stone walls of your subconscious mind. Ding, 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 ding. Right? But this requires discipline and practice. Right? Nobody likes the word discipline. Discipline's like, whoosh, discipline. But disciplines evolve into skills. When somebody has discipline, they are actually giving themselves the chance to get really good at something. What's the root word of discipline? Disciple. What is a disciple? Someone who practices something. Maybe they go and sit in front of somebody and they practice. They get really good at what they practice. And so we are going to develop a practice with these mushrooms. Well, what exactly are we practicing? Here's the most simple way I can put it. When you eat a mushroom and it goes into your stomach acids, the psilocybin, the chemical, gets converted into psilocin and courses through your blood. And eventually it crosses the blood-brain barrier. It bonds to the serotonin receptors, so you have kind of like elevated mood, a little bit more happy, and it produces a little bit of DMT. And when this happens, the biting grasp of your fight or flight, your default mode, your ego, the amygdala, it's a biting grasp that is always protecting you from doing things that you should or shouldn't be doing. It's just constantly protecting you. That bite that's linked to so many patterns and programs and habits and tendencies and addictions for satisfying or survival, that bite, it goes, ah. And that's what we're practicing. We're practicing letting that bite go. Ah. Of course, it's going to come back when we start our day and we go to work, but it won't be as hard of a bite, right? And over time, if you want to get good at anything, guitar, running, sports, whatever, you need to put in the hours, the mastery hours. And over time, this bite eventually turns into a solid hug, but it takes practice, right? So microdosing. The protocol lasts for 6 months. 6 months equates to 96 hours of practice, right? Because we're going to be doing a 4-day on, 3-day off protocol. That means we're going to be taking the mushroom Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we take off, right? We take off those days because we don't want our bodies to develop a tolerance to the mushroom. So we take those days off. We want to stay under the radar of the body. We don't want the body to kick it out or develop a tolerance. And those 4 days is when you'll be practicing. And here's an example of the protocol. Say I have a kid or a dog or a cat or a job, right? And I have to wake up at like 7 in the morning to start my day. Well, when I start my microdose discipline practice protocol, I am going to wake up at 6 instead of 7, right? But I'm not going anywhere. I'm literally, it's just like this. I'm just like, I set a little vibration on my phone, on my watch to wake up, something light and gentle to wake up to, and wake up. And we only take the microdose when we wake up because we have a special brainwave going on where we're not thinking about later and we're not thinking about yesterday or 10 years ago. We're in a very unique brainwave state. So we want to utilize that brainwave state. So right when I wake up, I don't even get out of bed. I just lean over, I grab the capsule, put it in my mouth, wash it down with some sacred water, and then just lean back with some pillows maybe. And I get really relaxed, right? I grab some earbuds or some headphones and I put on some beautiful music that's ad-free and lyricless. This is very important. Something that's gonna sweep you off your feet, right? Music that's just going to touch your soul and give you the goosebumps potentially. That's what you're looking for. So once you wake up and you take the capsule and you have these headphones in with beautiful music, you want to blindfold yourself because your brain uses 80% of its energy to put together all of this light that's penetrating your eyes. So you want to put a blindfold on. And once you have all that set up, you're sitting back very comfortable. You've got the blindfold on, you've got your music playing. You're going to do 3 things. And this is the discipline, this is the practice. You ready? The first thing you do is you smile. Because when you smile, you produce so many beneficial chemicals in your brain. A bunch of endogenous chemicals that are so beneficial to the brain and the organs, the body and the nervous system. You just start feeling happy, right? And something funny is like, everybody has that friend that when shit hits the fan and something goes down and it gets crazy, you have that friend that everybody's panicking, but there's always that one person that's just laughing like, this is crazy. And you're like, how can you be laughing in a time like this? And they're just gonna be like, I have to, otherwise I'll go crazy, right? Smiling and laughing, or just smiling in itself, is a blessing, and we can do it whenever we want, you know? So the first thing you do is you smile. You get that blindfold on, and you just a convincing, beautiful, blissful smile. The second thing you do is you raise your eyebrows, right? This is your drishti, your focus. You want your eyebrows to go up, but nothing forceful. Maybe as if like a spider web is gently pulling them up, right? This stops you from thinking so much, and it moves your attention up, and it helps you not fall back asleep. So you've got the smile, the eyebrows, and what's the third thing? The third thing is your breath, right? Without one breath, we're dead. I truly believe that the quality of our breath will dictate the quality of our life, all right? So people always ask me, well, what should I do? Should I do like a box breathing or a timed breathing? And I'm like, no. This is going to be a very poetic breath, a very tantric breath, or intimate breath. Tantra meaning the intimacy we have in the ever unfolding moment or every breath. This is going to be a very, very poetic breath. Imagine saying thank you, you're welcome, and I love you at the same time with no words. It's just your breath, kind of like. Very poetic. Every inhale and every exhale, as if you're sipping in the pheromones of creation and the universe itself, and then you're breathing that back out, as if it's your last and first breath you're ever going to take and give away. Poetic. There's no need to force your breath or hold it. No, right? Because what we're trying to do is create harmony in our facial expression, our focus, and our breath, which then dictates what? Our heart, right? We want to take care of this heart, right? The quality of the breath dictates the heart. And then guess what? Your heart rate dictates your nervous system. So everything starts becoming more simple and calm. We're creating harmony within all these things while the mushroom is inside of us, right? A little bit of that ally, The mushroom is hyper rewriting neurological pathways based on how you feel. So we're harmonizing our facial expression, our focus, our breath, our heart rate, and our nervous system to all together to create this beautiful feeling that the mushroom is going to etch into the stone walls of our subconscious mind. And we do that for about 45 minutes to an hour, right? I recommend an hour. And that's how we start our day. After an hour, you take the blindfold off and just keep on smiling. Maybe put some palo santo or sage or incense in the air. And always, before you do anything, chug some water so the organs can start up, right? Maybe put some salt into the water, but we'll get to that later. The goal is to do this for 4 days straight. And even on the days that we take 3 days off from taking the mushroom, you still wake up with a self-love and bliss. Now, 4 days on, 3 days off, that's 16 days of practice a month. And at the end of 6 months, that's 96 hours of mastery hours of practice, practicing self-love, and also practicing releasing that biting grasp of the amygdala. It's eventually going to turn into a hug that serves you. Here's an example of with the amygdala. Mountain climbers, or people who just do crazy, amazing things, like thrill-seeking people, their amygdalas are not so active, they're underactive, and that's why they can climb up mountains with ice picks with no ropes, and they just have no fears, right? Most people who live in the city or who are householders or have careers, they have an overactive amygdala so that we can, do what we need to do in timely manners and things like that, and just people like that tend to be more stressed. There's more complexity in their lives, and so they have overactive amygdalas. So at the end of 6 months, you're going to have an underactive amygdala. It's going to be more of a hug. You're going to be experiencing enhanced cognitivity, clarity, focus. Your memory recall is going to be through the roof. Your mood is going to be highly elevated. You're going to feel happier. It's like a mental oil change or a mental landscaping. There's been a lot of weeds in that garden and there's old oils in there, and we have to stimulate it somehow. Something I want to add. The opposite of depression is expression. And personally, I don't think depression exists. What I think exists is the lack of expression or the lack of passion in our lives. Our inability to express ourselves in some unique way will make the brain bored, and the brain loves to create problems so that it can solve the problems to get a quick dopamine fix. So if we're not engaged in things that make us happy, the brain's just going to do its thing. And a lot of the stresses that we experience today they're just nothing because we're not expressing ourselves. Right? So that's microdosing. Microdosing is a discipline. Nobody likes the word discipline. It's like, whoosh, disciplines, but disciplines evolve into skills. And this is a hell of a skill. We're creating an uptrend in how we wake up. Some other things about microdosing. People are like, oh, well, I meditate and maybe I can put this into my meditation, And I learned in India, and it's not the ultimate truth, but it's a perspective. Nobody can meditate. Meditation is something that happens to us when we have a single pointed focus for a prolonged period of time. There can be meditators that just, sit there and they experience nirvana, bliss, satori, no thing, non-dualistic presence of infinite oneness washing over them over and over again in the ever-unfolding moments of the phenomenon of existence. Or what about like basketball players? They are so in the zone and they have such a single-pointed focus that they know they know how many dribbles, they know where everybody is. Mountain climbers, they're in the zone, single pointed focus, all of these aspects of awareness melted into one, right? Meditation is something that happens to people when they have a single pointed focus for a prolonged period of time. And so our single pointed focus is our bliss with this microdose practice, our self-love and our bliss. That's our single pointed focus for a prolonged period of time. So feelings is our original language. It's the language we're born with, right? When we're born, my teacher taught me that we're born singing. We're like, you know, or crying, however you want to look at it, but we're born feeling. That's all we know. We have these innocent minds that have not been programmed and anything. We have not been taught to be anybody. And then over time, what happens? Our parents teach us to be somebody. And then our little friends teach us to be somebody. And then we go to school and then the teachers teach us to be somebody. And then we teach ourselves to be somebody in the eyes of that girl and that guy, you know? And then, hey, maybe we want to fit in to a group, right? So we teach ourselves to be somebody, to fit into that group, to be cool, you know? And then we have to go to high school and college, constantly taught to be somebody. And then we have our career and our job. We have to show up and be somebody for them. And at the end of the day, who are we, right? And I'll tell you right now, we are only how we feel. And so our single pointed focus is going to be our true identity, which is our feelings. And we're going to become really good at carrying those feelings throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month and the year. The feelings that only provide us the most beneficial and blissful vibes possible. And that's what this microdose protocol is about. It's about practicing feelings, rekindling that hidden telepathic language of feelings that we're born with. You know, what to expect, right? As we progress from month 1 to month 6. So the first 2 weeks are going to be interesting, right? You're waking up with this self-love and bliss, right? With the mushroom, you've never done this before. And you're actually going to feel like you're being tuned, like a guitar string. Let me show you something here, right? You got this guitar. Well, your nervous system is like a musical note. And guess what? All of your organs are dancing to your nervous system. Imagine your nervous system is just this, right? All your organs are just like constantly like this. Your whole life you've had this nervous system song going, and maybe your life has been beautiful, or maybe there's been some stuff, right? Maybe it's been a minor chord, you know? And we want to shift it to a major chord, you know? And so the first 2 weeks, you're going to feel your nervous system being tuned to the feelings you're creating, right? And what happens when you tune a string? It gets tighter or looser. But this string is undergoing this tension, whether it's releasing or renewing. And you might feel, because it's like a tuning, you might feel a slight anxiety, right? Because you've never done this before. Your nervous system is literally tuning itself to the feelings you're creating, which is very beautiful. So the first 2 weeks, you might feel your organs learning how to dance to this new tune, which might be a little uncomfortable, but it only lasts about 1 or 2 weeks. In the microdose community, this is known as the tuning or the squeeze. And it's okay. Everybody feels it. I still feel it when I'm on my microdose protocol, and I've been doing this for a while. So this is just something to expect, right? But that's only maybe a week or 2 tops. You gotta have your discipline and ride through it, okay? if you ride this to month 2 and 3, that's when you're going to start experiencing enhanced cognitivity, clarity, focus. Your memory recall is going to be through the roof, and your mood is going to be way different. It's going to be elevated. You know, you've got this mushroom bonding to your serotonin receptors, and you've also been practicing bliss every morning. And once we get to month 2 or 3 and you feel those changes, it's outstanding. But you want to ride that train to month 6. That's where the mastery hours and the practice comes in to sustain those feelings. At around month 6, you're going to be peaking. And at month 6, you stop. And you compare yourself to where you were and where you are now, and how the practice and discipline improved your life. You know, and constantly tune in to, hey, maybe I can fine tune my bliss and make it even more intimate and passionate for yourself. The only thing that's going to make this work is you and your feelings and your discipline. You being that disciple. A disciple of what? Disciple of your self-love, so you can practice that bite, turn into a hug, and take those feelings onward throughout your journey of life. And then you stop at month 6. You stop and you take a few months off, and you really just enjoy life, but never give up your practice of self-love and bliss. Sustain that, wake up to that every day, and celebrate life like that every day. There's no true way to do this. I'm just giving you guidelines and a structure that has worked for me. It's laced in simplicity. It's pretty much effortless to wake up and smile and do this, right? But it takes discipline. And life is simple. We didn't even ask to be here. You know, we just kind of lifed. We had no say. And life gets complex. And so we are introducing simplicity via self-love, throwing a little bit of the mushroom in there to perform accelerated psychotherapy, to rewrite neurological pathways rapidly based on how we feel, to create some amazing results, creating an uptrend that will benefit us and everybody around us. Because when we are complete and feeling self-love, it overflows out into our world. Many people will notice it who are close to you. People who you even walk by will notice it. Maybe at work. They will feel your field, right? So you know the word manifest? Where did that come from? It's Latin, from manos festus. Manos is your hands, and festus is obvious, means obvious. So whatever is as obvious as your hand in front of you is manifest. Well, what's obvious at all times? Your facial expression, your breath rate, and your heart rate. They create this magnetic field. It's real. Look up heart math. There's a field that gets created. And we believe that the universe can only communicate with us through this field, right? And the universe will bend itself around your field to match how you're feeling and give you whatever you deserve. And you deserve to feel love, bliss, peace, abundance, wealthy, everything. So think about that. Think about that word manifest and how your feelings actually communicate with the universe. Now, there's some wisdom that comes with this. This wisdom is very, very, very important, right? So my teachers taught me that stuff might come up, shit might come up. But guess what? Shit is the best fertilizer. Without shit, nothing grows, right? So anything that comes up, it's okay. Guess what? It's going to get transmuted. Into what and by what? It's going to get transmuted into bliss by your facial expression, your focus, and your breath. And you truly transmute it into those harmonizing aspects that you're invoking through the microdose protocol. So if anything comes up, just radically accept it into your breath, your facial expression, and your heart rate, your beautiful heart. Also, my teachers taught me that there's no such thing as good or bad. Those concepts only exist in our head. Good and bad exist in our head. Back in the day, the ancient languages like predating Aramaic and Sanskrit even, they didn't allow words like good or bad in their language, in their vocabulary. Why? It's because it would give people the opportunity to point at something in a very extreme way. That's good, that's bad. That's good, that's bad. And guess what? There's no such thing as good or bad, because everything Creator created is perfect. Everything. Now, they did have words like mature or immature, like the fruit trees in nature. They had words like toxic or antidotal, like the plants and the animals in nature. They had words like healthy or sick, like the bark on a tree or maybe our skin. But they never had words like good or bad. Good or bad does not exist at all. We have to out-doctrinate ourselves from thinking that there's good or bad. Now, check out this battery. You've got positive and negative. Does positive mean good? Does negative mean bad? No. What is positive and negative then? Well, look, the positive has this little pokey phallic thing on the top. It's phallic. Positive is masculine. This is masculine. It's penetrating out energy into a device. Masculine penetrates. Masculine penetrates. Everything that penetrates our senses, it's all masculine, right? But how we give it meaning inside of us, the feelings, is the feminine, right? The negative, it's got this little cute dimple in there. It's negative, it's feminine. It's the part that the positive can never see. It can only feel, right? So whatever the feelings are, they always come out and penetrate out. Here's an example, like the words on a book, they're all scribbles, masculine. But how I read it and how it gets created inside of me and how I give it meaning is feminine, right? Even traumas, things have happened to us. Things, masculine, they penetrated our senses, right? And maybe they happened like 20 years ago. But how do they replay inside of us now is the feminine. And being that there's no good or bad, there's only mature or immature, how is that showing up inside of us? Is it mature? Is it mature feminine, mature feelings? Like that trauma, we're holding like a little baby and we're like, don't worry, I got you. And you know what? I'm glad that happened to me, so because it made me a better person. Or is it immature and toxic and we're like, somebody take this baby, all that happened to me still, you know? And what are we doing? We're cutting off the negative and we're judging it. We're judging it as bad. And guess what? When you cut the negative off on a battery, it destroys the battery. We are the battery. The device is our reality. And when we start labeling bad, 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 we cut off the negative and our device, our reality starts to flicker. And we're like, you know? And so we have to out-doctrinate ourselves from thinking that there is good or bad, because that does not exist at all. In 2009, my mother, rest in peace, transcended in my arms in hospice. She passed away and left her body from cancer. And I went through a super big depression because she was my biggest fan with music, with everything, with love. And I went through a big blah. And for like 2 years. And I found some amazing people in my life and started walking this path and using these medicines like this to go inside. I'm rewriting my neurological pathways with my feelings from the inside out, right? Not the outside in. I don't take these mushrooms or these medicines and just like let everything penetrate me and create new feelings in the moment. No, I work with what I've got. Of course, like if there's a ceremony or if there's like rituals being done and we're with the medicine, we're watching beautiful rituals. And that's okay. That's rewriting from the outside in because we're like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. But for the inner work, with microdosing or even the inner work macrodosing alone, we want to block all of our senses from being penetrated. Nothing masculine penetrating us, but our own feelings, right? But what about thoughts? I get this question a lot. Like, hey, I have these thoughts, these thoughts. First of all, the mind is harder to tame than the wind, right? And you know what I think thoughts are? Thoughts are just feelings becoming crystallized in your mind because you cannot hear your thoughts, right? There's some alchemy going on in here, like some advanced telepathic alchemy, right? So you have a feeling and it turns into a thought. Thoughts are like stage 5 of a feeling. It goes through a filter, like your language, and then immediately becomes a judgment, or discernment, whatever you want to call it. And so with this practice, this discipline, you are learning how to feel a specific way for a prolonged period of time so that your thoughts are just reflections of your feelings, right? Another cool quote or saying, there was this elder and somebody was like, elder, how do I use more of my mind? And the elder looks at him and he goes, well, you stop using it, then you have more of it. And what that meant was we stop thinking so much and start feeling, so that that thought and the feeling can become one. And we have more of our mind free to really hold space for what's true, which is our feelings. So that's microdosing. Again, there's no one way to do this. I'm just giving you the structure that is laced in simplicity that's worked worlds for me. But you're going to take this guideline and structure and kind of make it your own and dance with it. Macrodosing is a very beautiful thing. Macrodosing is using a bigger dosage of the medicine with an intention to create an immense amount of neural connections in the brain. And you always use it with an intention, a purpose, and the setting is everything. And I highly recommend doing it on your own, by yourself. I'm going to give you an example of how I do it. So, I want to have a ceremony. We call it a journey or a ceremony. I want to go inward, inside in myself, right? So I have a closet, right? It's a big closet. There's clothes hanging and stuff in there, but I bring a nice pillow in there, a nice little table, call it my altar. And on that altar, on that table, I put pictures of my family and my friends, people who I love, right? People are like, I love you. I put pictures of what I think God looks like in the center. And then to the right, I put pictures of people who push my buttons. Whether they're people I know or people who are on TV, political, whatever. People who push your buttons, right? So they're all on the same table, okay? This altar has all of these people on the same table. Also, I'll put a bowl of water with rose petals in it with a little bit of jasmine oil, right? That represents the water and the earth. I put a candle there representing the fire, and I have like a little feather fan, or just like I have an Asian fan that I got from a wedding, and that represents the wind, right? And so before I even take this dose, for like an hour, I'm just going inside and doing that microdose practice without any medicine, just creating this inner landscape inside of myself, right? Preparing myself, preparing my nervous system and my heart and my spirit, preparing it for this journey. My only intention really is to invoke the most self-love possible, and for whatever bubbles up inside of me to be transmuted into my facial expression, my breath rate, and my heart rate, so that it may mature and become healthy and antidotal inside of me. And to celebrate life, So for the first hour, I don't take any medicine. I just prepare my soul, spirit, body, and mind. And when I'm ready, I take my macrodose. I digest it. I eat it. I put on headphones with a beautiful long playlist of ad-free lyricless music. It's very important. And I blindfold myself. And for 2.5 to 3.5 hours, I don't take that blindfold off, and I constantly bless myself with tantra, which means intimacy, and self-love, and smiles, and beautiful breaths that are just poetically inspired by the music I'm listening to. And I do that for 2.5, 3.5 hours. After 2.5 or 3.5 hours, I'll take the blindfold off, and then I see everything on my altar. The first thing I do is I take that water, and I wipe it all over my face. And that smell of the jasmine and the rose petals and just the water is like, oh, wow. The second thing I do is I look at my altar. I see the pictures of my family. I'm like, oh my God, I love these guys. I love you guys so much. And then I see pictures of God. And then I'm like, oh my God, the great mystery. Thank you so much for this life, for all this mystical, beautiful, phenomenal creation. Thank you. Thank you. And then I see the pictures of the people who push my buttons the most. But guess what? They're penetrating my senses and my eyes, and they're showing up inside of me in a beautiful way because I just experienced self-love with that medicine for hours. And so they're penetrating me and showing up in a beautiful way, all those people who push the buttons. Now, the most important thing I was taught for macrodosing by myself was the art of forgiveness, okay? Right? So there's 2 ways that we can forgive. Here's number 1. Pretend my guitar is somebody, right? Hey, I forgive you. You were shitty and you did some stupid stuff, but I forgive you, but never do it again, and I forgive you. It's okay. Right? That's not a good energy exchange at all. You just put yourself up here, pedestal, you're still holding on to some feelings, and you're pointing at that person, and that person's like, okay, I'm sorry. And that's not a good energy exchange at all. That's forgiveness number 1, method number 1. Check out forgiveness method number 2. Hey, I forgive myself for allowing you to run inside of me in a toxic and immature way. I'm sorry that I couldn't be the reflection you needed at the time to show up for me in the ways that I need you to show up. But I won't let you run inside of me in a toxic and immature and unhealthy way anymore. I hold you in high regards forever and always, no matter what, and I've got your back from now on. Even if it means me never seeing you again, or if it means we really take this to the next level and have each other's backs. And I forgive myself for allowing you to run inside of me in those immature, unhealthy, and toxic ways. Let's be this team, okay? That's forgiveness method 2. That's the true way to forgive, because the only person we ever have to forgive is ourselves, because we're feeling it first, always. We don't want to hold on to any toxic, immature, or unhealthy things inside of us. We want it to mature. And the only way it's going to mature is prolonging those feelings, right? The ceremony is life. But when we macrodose, that is where we cultivate and remember and celebrate and feel ourselves as intimate as possible. Tantra translates to the intimacy we have with life itself in the ever unfolding moment of life, the inhale and the exhale, for a prolonged period of time. You can tell when people have like really mature tantra because they carry themselves through lives like this. And they're not afraid to say no, thank you. no, I'm good, thank you. You know, but also you can tell when their tantra is immature, where they're like, oh, just in a rush, always in a rush. Or they're, yes, I say yes to everything and I'll do everything, and then I build stress for myself. Tantra is the intimacy we have and the respect we have for ourselves and the way life moves through us. That's macrodosing. After you've looked at your altar and you've connected with the elements, drink some water, lay down, and just continue to be in your bliss. Or maybe write poetry about how happy you are and express yourself. That's macrodosing. We're rewriting from the inside out. They say like one of these nights is similar to 1,000 therapy sessions if we guide ourselves in the most mature ways possible. And so it's very important to have these nights for ourselves. Who are we when there's no witnesses? We are our feelings. There's a quote that says, what you're looking for in life is already looking through you. And we have to slow down and become intimate with what's looking through us, which is consciousness. We have to purify our body and our mind and our spirit only in happiness and radical acceptance and bliss. We purify ourselves in that so that consciousness can look through us and look through us in a beautiful body, in a beautiful, healthy, mature, harmonized, antidotal, wonderful body, temple, church. This is the temple. This is the church. The quality of it is our... Oh, thank you. You're welcome, and I love you at the same time, always and forever. That's macrodosing. Anxiety. I just want to touch on this for a second. Someone once told me that at the seat of anxiety is unworthiness, our inability to feel worthy. And anxiety, or not feeling worthy for a prolonged period of time, doesn't feel good. And it's our God-given right to feel worthy. I mean, we're here in this beautiful body. And it's just a blessing to feel worthy. Every cell will love you for it in your body. And this microdose protocol is practicing feeling self-worth like you've never felt it before. It's taking your self-worth to the next level and practicing it over and over again until it's something that you'll never forget because you're doing it all the time. You'll never have to remember it because you are it. It's such an incredible practice. Self-love, feeling worthy. Anxiety will melt away in the presence of you feeling worthy. Check this out. You have 44,000 ancestors on your mom's side, and then you have 44,000 ancestors on your dad's side, okay? So this body, this face, like none of this even belongs to me. I inherited it, right? Like I had no say. I couldn't create my character like in a video game like this. I could maybe grow my hair out and style a little bit. But listen, we inherited this body. 44,000 ancestors on your mom's side and your dad's side until the first one. So you wear your great-grandmother's eyes, your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's nose, your great times 50 grandmother's smiles. And then their fears. Maybe they were surviving in a land where there wasn't a lot of food, and so they had to go through like some toughness. They had to get tough. You know, all these traits were passed down to you, right? And there's no way that we can repay these people for the gift of life, right? They're gone, but they're right here. We wear them, right? They're our ancestors plastered onto us. We inherited these bodies. The only way to repay them for the gift of life is to celebrate life and to feel worthy and self-love. And they'll feel it because you are them, they are you. We inherited these bodies. After the protocol, after the 6 months, I highly recommend taking a break but getting creative, finding hobbies that make you feel passionate, even dancing. Like, imagine you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is put on your favorite music and you start dancing, right? All these beautiful chemicals in your body celebrating. Dance is an ancient medicine, right? And just do things and take things that will better your life. Drink lots of water. Put salt in your water. We need salt. We need minerals. Maybe take some supplements like ashwagandha, or connect with cacao, chocolate in its bitter form. The bitter the taste, the sweeter the heart. You know, connect with things that are going to create a healthy inner landscape inside of you. Do some biohacking. Go on YouTube and find out the most cool, beneficial things. You know, find passions. Get creative. Art, music, expression. Listen, children nowadays, when they're turned 13, they're given a phone. They're like, oh, hey, you're 13, here's a phone. Back in the day, ancient indigenous days, when you were 13, you were put in the center of the tribe, and they'd light a fire and dance around you. And they'd be like, you're a woman, you're a woman, you're a man, you're a man. And be like, yeah, I'm a man, I'm a woman. And they'd initiate you into the celebration of your next stage of life. And they would give you the spear and you would be part of the hunting group, or they would give you your tools and you would be part of weaving these beautiful garments for the warriors and the doctors, whatever it was. Nowadays, we all lack rites of passage and initiation. Initiate yourself into passions and hobbies and talents and workshops that are going to make you feel good, that are going to create beautiful vibes inside of you, creativity. I guarantee you will thrive from just finding a passion, committing to it, and getting really good at it. Both microdosing and macrodosing are important. Microdosing, you can do it with anything. You can do it with supplements like ashwagandha, even water. But you have to have discipline. Imagine if you're staying hydrated and you're drinking a sufficient amount of water. I'm talking like the amount of water you're supposed to drink every single day, and you're doing that. It's going to feel really good, because most people don't drink water like they should, and they develop all these diseases, which then they find all these complexities and things they will have to try to heal. But really, it's just the water. We can microdose with anything, but it takes discipline. And macrodosing takes bravery, intention, authenticity, structure, setting. We have to really set us up for success when we go inside. Also, when we go and sit with others, we have to make sure that they are walking straight and they are authentic and they are keeping it safe and beautiful and inspirational and motivational and integrational. But it all starts with us first. So that's microdosing and macrodosing. And you have my undying brotherly support with all of it. I'm here for you. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'm here. But just remember, it's simple. The mind loves to create complexity. And so we have to distract the mind in a beautiful way and unite the mind with the heart. The mind makes a great servant, but a terrible master. We unite the heart and the mind to become one. So we can say, move mountains, and the mountains will move. And the mountains of our obstacles, that are fears, that can be cured just from self-love. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or anything, you let me know. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And I've got your back.